Hello and welcome to the second episode of the new Nexuiz in-depth video podcast. My name is Mario Chekhov, aka Green Marine, and this time we will have a closer look at the console together with its auto-completion feature. The difficulty of this episode is beginner. Alright, let's start. First of all, you might be wondering, what is the console and why should you care? One of the most important reasons is the ability to configure every single aspect of the game. If you have a look at the menu of Nexuiz 2.5, we could try to estimate how many options there are available. Let's say on each tab, each single checkbox, each entry, and each slider that you see there is one control variable, one variable that is configurable also in the console. Let's say every tab has like 30 or 40 of these sliders, checkboxes, and input fields. Even if you multiply every possibility, we have maybe 200 or maybe 300 options. But how many variables are there? There are many more. Here you can see the list of all variables of the game. As you can see at the bottom, there are almost 2,300 lines, which means almost as many variables. And if I'm scrolling through the list, you can see that there is a massive amount of variables available in Nexuiz. The second reason why you need the console is that the console allows you to enter commands which are actually designed for their use in the console, and examples include the voting commands if you want to vote for another map on a server, for example. These commands are not available in any menu yet. The third reason is that when you plan to become a Nexuiz server administrator, or probably already are one, it is also good to be able to use the console. So let's go over and actually use the console. In order to open it, you can use the tilde key. The tilde key can be found on your keyboard as illustrated in this graphic. However, if you are in the menu of Nexuiz, you are not able to open the console using the tilde key. Instead, you have to use the combination Shift and the Escape key to open the console. I've done that now in the menu, and in order to close the console, you have to hit the Escape key. I'm opening the console again to illustrate its usage. In order to get the value of a variable, for example, I know the variable is called time limit and I want to know the value, I'm just gonna enter the name of the variable, time limit, and hit enter. I will then see both the value of the variable and also behind the value in this brackets, I will see the default value of the variable as well. If I want to set the value of a variable, I enter its name, then hit the space key, then enter the value, and then hit enter. So it's actually fairly easy to use. Now I'd like to explain the auto-completion feature of the console, which will help to speed up your work a lot. The auto-completion does two things. First, it creates a list of all commands, variables, and aliases that begin with what you've written in the console and shows them, including their value, default value, and description. Second, it automatically completes the variable command or alias that you started to type. However, this only works up to a point where no ambiguity exists. Allow me to illustrate this in a second. However, before I do, maybe one tip. In order to get a better overview, it is sometimes recommended to clean the console up from stuff that was written there before. You can do so by entering clear into the console. Now I want to edit the value of the variable time limit, but since I'm lazy, I only enter TIM and then hit tab. After hitting tab, Nexuiz automatically shows me all commands, variables, and aliases that start with TIM, as well as their value and descriptions. It did also autocomplete a little because it added the E at the end, so now the console says time. However, it was unable to complete it any further because there is still ambiguity. It doesn't know whether I want to have the time limit, notice the L after time, or time format, which has the F after time. If I supply the console with that information, in this case L, and hit tab again, it will autocomplete to my desired variable, time limit. Allow me to summarize what you can use the autocompletion for in the console. First of all, you can use it for commands, variables, and aliases, as I just illustrated. Also, you can use it when using the exec command, which I will explain in another episode. You can use it for autocompleting the name of the config that you want to execute. For example, if I do execute d-tab, it will automatically complete all the config files that are in my data folder, starting with D. When changing maps, the command map or change map, chmap, will automatically complete the map names. For example, a change map agg tab will autocomplete to change map aggressor. There are two notes about this thing from my side though. First, this will only work with maps that you have put into your data folder, and it won't work with maps that are only on the server or maps that are only in your download cache folder. So you might consider to move the maps from your download cache folder into your data folder from time to time. Also, when voting, the autocompletion will fail if you try something like vote call, change map, agg tab. For some technical reason it won't work. And the workaround is to use the vote map alias instead, which is spelled vmap, and then it will work. Another possibility where you can use autocompletion is to autocomplete player names. The great thing is that this actually works in chat too. I guess I can show that to you in a live demo now. I connected to an arbitrary online server. There I am. And for example, I want to greet Snoopy. I just type SN, hit tab, and then I tell him a message, for example, that he's just visible on YouTube. This works for the other names as well, such as the Xone or Ravage or all the other names. I'm just typing the first 1 or 2 characters of the name and it works just fine. Before I come to the end of this episode, I have a few more details for you. First of all, if the description of a variable in the console says custom cvar, this just means that this variable was defined by one of the Nexuiz developers and used at some point, but there isn't any description available. Also, please notice that you can use the arrow up and arrow down key on your keyboard to reuse commands that you entered previously. Last but not least, you also need to keep in mind that the autocompletion feature doesn't work on a console of a dedicated server. Alternatively, you can enter cvar list, then a space, and then the beginning of the variable you want to see. So you will get at least a list of the variables in case you're just struggling to figure out the name, but you cannot really autocomplete there. Alright, I think I've wasted enough of your time today, and in the next episode I will have a look at the advanced settings menu introduced in Nexuiz 2.5, which offers an alternative way of accessing the variables in Nexuiz. This was Green Marine for the Alien Trap development team. Have a good time and see you next week.